The greatest challenge that I see in the present world is that the feminine energy, the woman, is not in her rightful place in the world. You don't need to be validated by anybody. Validate yourself. Show our young sisters and our young men the feminine principle. Because whether we realize it or not, we still do it. Everybody returned back to mommy. So it's there. We just don't want to admit it because we feel that we have to be in power. You see, might don't make right. Right makes might.
Greetings, family. We are grateful to our guest, Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene, who joins us. In our conversation, we will be discussing the book, The Sibyls, the first prophetess of Mami Wata by Mama Zogbe, or Vivian Hunter Hindru, M.E.D., who was also a chief Hunan Amagasi. The more advanced of this matriarchal divine order are known as Amagasi. In this book, she poses the question, is Christianity a fraud? Also, the Bible authorship is being challenged. In this book, we will learn through facts that the Black women were the original authors. Mama Zogbe also poses that African women were the original authors of what is known as Bible prophecy. She also claims that this knowledge has always been known by the Roman Church, but has been kept hidden, some in plain view, for centuries. She argues that for 6,000 years, Africa was ruled by a powerful order of Sibyls matriarchs. They produced the world's first oracles, prophetess, and prophets. Known as the Pythoness, they worked the oracles in Black Kemet or Egypt, in ancient Greece, Rome, Turkey, Palestine or Israel, Syria and Babylon. Their holy temples were more numerous than the churches of today. In ancient Rome, they first established the Holy Seat of the Vatican, advising the world's heads of state. All the information in the book is supported by solid evidence. These Black women, the oldest human beings on the planet, laid the theological foundation for Hebrew or Judaism, Hinduism, Christianity, and Islam. Centuries before Christ, the Sibyls cured epileptics, the blind, lepers, and cast out demons, etc. Their supposedly pagan prophecies were used to create a Western theological foundation and became the undisputed precursor for the Christian Bible, or the Old and New Testament. Finally, the African women's religious history is being unearthed, exposing shocking revelations buried for more than 2,000 years. The book covers, I would say, all the topics one can imagine, even the black doves, the original famous Holy Spirit, universally known as the black doves. The Sibyls refer themselves as sisters of Isis, and sometimes prophetesses of the Black Diana. In what is now Italy, thousands of years before the Anglo-Romans arrived from everywhere, like what is now known as Mesopotamia, Libya, Turkey, Greece, and later Rome, the Sibyls were the primary divine Vatican and absolute moral authority. She did not usurp her divine providence and authority from anyone. Her place is the manifestation of the original and natural order as willed through the divine logos responsible for establishing human societies, moral law, spiritual practices, and the sacred authority to maintain order on the earth. So many questions are answered in this book that it is a must read for everyone, especially for us women. I agree with the author of being convinced that until this history is restored and African women are accorded their rightful place in the world, there will probably never be any peace.
How's everybody doing?
How are you?
Everything is excellent.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so
Yes.
glad. You have no idea how happy this makes me.
Yes, it's all good. It's all good. Particularly for our community, I think, and like I always say, it doesn't make a difference. I'm not here to make you believe me. I'm just here to make you think. And I think if we could just lay out some information, particularly for our sisters, to understand the role that they have played historically in our community and how they, for me, I think that's the key. The other key is the fact that I'm encouraging our women, our sisters, not to wait for the validation of men. Take control of your own life. Put yourself in the position. Don't wait for someone to give you power. You were born with the power. All you got to do is to assume it. That's the other point that I got out of the Sibyls. Because we're all looking for validation. We're looking to Europeans for validating us as a people. I don't need their validation. I validate myself, and I do it by example. And this is what I'm encouraging us to do. Sisters, don't wait for someone to validate you. Don't look for men to say, okay, you're great. Be great. As we spoke about in the Sibyls, there was a point in history where the African woman was dethroned. She was taken from her proper place in society for all of her contributions, for being the mother of the world. And because of that, the world has never been right since. And this is why when we did that presentation on the Sibyls, my sister Maali, I strongly recommend it to all of our sisters. Sit on your throne because you have it. You don't need anybody to achieve your greatest ideas, your dreams, your aspirations. And so what I did in Carbon Before Melanin, because I could have chosen men, there are men that I know that are Magi. There are men that I know possess Heka and power. But I wanted to highlight women because of the nature of the Sibyls, the mothers of our world, and what they've done. And I purposely put two sisters, two women of African descent who are ancestors. They're deceased. But I also included one that's still alive because I wanted women, no matter where they are in age, even the young girls, young sisters, to see that not only when you're deceased are you Magi, but you can be a walking Magi right now. And I have to also tell you, my sister Maali, for the work that you're doing. I see you as a Magi. It's not easy doing what you're doing, my sister, and I know you have a number of things coming at you at one time. You are a woman of African descent. You are a woman. And you're also attempting to do something that so many other people possess the courage, but are not exhibiting the courage to stand and to be willing to take what you're taking, to let us as a people know that we must come together. So this is why I support everything that you're doing. And together we're going to make this happen. So I accept your thank you. I thank you for your thank you, but I also thank you for all that you do and all the sisters that are fighting this brave and courageous battle to bring us back to where we were before we were so rudely interrupted by those who would wish to oppress us. Yes, and I think that that you're correct. That's one of the things, because like one of the sections in the book that she says, and I totally agree, is that we must reckon with the wrong that has been caused, especially to women, and understand the power that the feminine has, as far as not power of control and that, no, but
with, as far as the woman is concerned, who she is and where she comes from. One of the things that I also see is so that we can understand how this whole thing came about, as far as the coming from a feminine to a patriarchal order, and how we must find some kind of balance. Because learning from ancient cultures, I've learned that there's certain epoch, and one was the feminine, and then came the masculine, which is the patriarchal. Now, where we stand today, we're not saying like let's go back to the feminine, but how about we come together now from a place of balance, where yes, I know who I am, and I know the power that I have, and I know the male, and the power that he has. So let's bring those two together, and from there now create like a new paradigm in balance.
Absolutely. And you see, from an ancient perspective, there was not archal. Okay, archal means power. The word we need is matrilineal, okay, which means that the line of descent comes from the woman. This has nothing to do with power. Men did what they did, women did what they did, and together they were able to establish the society. So it's not about returning to a woman's power. It certainly is about just getting out of the male power, because it's patrilineal. What do we as human beings inherit from our male aspect? And what do we inherit from our female aspect? Because we're all both male and female.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are concerns I have about the book. And one of the concerns I have about the book is that it deals very much with Christianity. And the beginnings of the destruction of the feminine power happened when it was only Black people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Long before Europeans were even on the scene, there began to have problems between the male and the female energy, particularly when they became very affluent. And there's something about that human relationships that brought that about. The other thing is that although I respect what Sister did in the book, I have a problem with focusing on Christianity, because it wasn't about religion. She's writing the book from the perspective from when Europeans, the Romans in particular, began the development of their getting power in the world and using the religion as an aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because by this time, the woman is the oracle reader. Men are not oracle readers. The gift that men have, from my perspective, my research is that we know who the oracle readers are. But the idea has to go back in time. And we have to accept the responsibility. We as an original African people, we have to accept the responsibility of what we brought on by attempting to diminish the role that women played. Because even when you look at ancient Kemet, you see that there is a essence, a neter, or a principal characteristic of the creator, whose name was Nebetet. Nebetet was the oracle reader. She was the one that could foretell and could pre-tell and post-tell what was going to happen. The feminine energy is the energy that can prophesize, can see. We call it mother wit. We have a word for it in our society. It's called mother wit. It's like when abuela or your grandmother says to you, honey, don't go take the bus today. Walk where you got to go. I think something not going to be good on the bus. And all of a sudden you hear that there was a crash on the bus. That's mother wit. That's the ability to foretell. And that is what the Sibyls were. The Sibyls were those women that were able to use their talents and their God-given right by following the laws of truth and justice, balance, harmony, order, arrangement, and would be able to tell what was going to happen because they were one with nature. And so the Sibyls precede all of this history that comes from this book, which I respect and I appreciate. And that is why I encouraged us to read this book. But at the same time, when you step back into history, you begin to realize that this challenge between the male and the female was happening before. And
Yes,
once
and
we identify that, we can be honest with ourselves.
yes, and I think that I think if I remember correctly, I think she mentioned that in the book that it went back way back that the one it was called they call it the gender war,
Mhm.
and it began with the African people, the Black African people. And so yes, you're correct. I mean, and that's something that we have to acknowledge.
Yes, yes. And own it and then see where we can come back. You know, there's not one gender more important than the other.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at science, the female energy is magnetism and the male energy is electricity. Electrical currents create magnetic fields. Magnetic fields create electrical currents. They live for each other. They balance each other. They're different. One is electric, the other is magnetism. That is the energy that is produced necessary in balance. Because if we were all the same, we would not need balance. And nature has challenged us to be able to come together in balance, to be able to respect each other and respect each other's abilities. And the greatest challenge that I see in the present world is that the feminine energy, the woman, is not in her rightful place in the world. And I encourage our sisters, do not wait for the validation of a man to tell you who you are. Learn who you are, embrace who you are, and be who you are. You don't need to be validated by anybody. Validate yourself.
And I think that that's one of the things that I also learned from the book as far as being in the right place. And we can see where specifically Black African women, where they are and where they have been and still are today. And no matter how much we have been oppressed, we are still thriving, and we still do things that sometimes I even wonder myself as where do we get the strength? How can we do so much with all the limitations that are put upon us? And that really, at least for me, in my opinion, it shows how special per se we are, that and that essence of who we truly are as the female in this story. And so yes, we must understand and know who we truly are and embrace that who we are.
You know, you can see it, my sister Maali. You can see it throughout history. In the ancient Kush-Kemet world, some people call it Egypt, but the African perspective is Kush-Kemet. There was a group of people known as the Magi, Medjay, Magi. They came from Sudan, and they were the very best in many different areas. They were multi-geniuses. They were warriors. They were scholars. They were people who had reached or were leaning towards the pinnacle of all greatness. Everything they did, they strived to be perfect. Mediocrity was not a word in their vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
Everything they did, they wanted to excel in it. And even though they may not been perfect in it, they were always striving for perfection.
Mm-hmm.
They were a group of people that had gone beyond Homo sapiens sapien. They were a people that had gone to what is called super sapiens. For all the young people that are listening, for those of you who check out Dragon Ball Z,
Mm-hmm.
you have an entity known as the Super Saiyans. That's where they got that concept from. They were excellent in all that they did. And these were the feminine as well as the males. The females were also warriors. They were also scholars. But the fact is that the women had the ability to be the oracle reader, because think of the great responsibility that the Creator has given the woman to bring forward the world. It is through the woman that all life comes. And so in that, the Creator would also give the feminine energy the power to be able to foretell, pretell the events on the earth. Today we call it mother wit. In science, it's called intuitive instinct.
Mhm.
And it is the woman that has it. The man's gift is that he knows who the oracle readers are, which is as important as being an oracle reader. But men are not oracle readers because we are not grounded in the earth. The woman is with the earth. She is the one that brings forward life. And so with that, to whom much is given, much is expected. The life that women lead is very different from the life that men lead. Women have to think on many other levels than men. Men just get up in the morning and they do what they do. Women have got to calculate what their life is like. They have to look at their monthly cycle. They have to prepare for their life. They have to know what part of this life-giving process are they in. Are they in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, the fourth quarter? They have to decide places that they're going to go according to where they are. They have to decide what they're going to wear according to where they are. And these are the responsibilities that have been given to women. Women are phenomenal. And without we as men understanding and respecting that power, we'll never get ahead. And the society will continue to tumble out of control as we see it happening now. And again, I go back to my sisters, to the women, and I ask you, don't wait for validation from anybody. Validate yourself. Understand your greatness. Power is, like we say, well, we're going to take power back. I'm not taking power back. Look at what they did with the power that they had. I don't want that. I got the power. You've got the power. Assume it. Do it. And lead by example. Show our young sisters and our young men the feminine principle. Because whether we realize it or not, we still do it. Everybody returned back to mommy.
Mhm.
Everybody depends on the woman for a lot of the things that they need. They still do it, but they're afraid to admit it. So it's there. We just don't want to admit it because we feel that we have to be in power. You see, might don't make right. Right makes might.
And how do in order for us to be able to understand where we are now or today, can we just go back a little bit on how did all things started? I know she talked about that first war back then, and of course they were Africans, and she mentioned that the first war was the gender war. Do you remember that part? That
Yes, but that gender war happened before the Romans ever came in contact
Yes.
with
Mhm.
Black people.
Yes. Yes.
The gender war happened in the ice.
Mhm.
The whole idea, remember years ago, there used to be cartoons.
Mhm.
And I remember there was a cartoon where it showed that the caveman would hit the woman over the head and drag her in the cave by her hair.
Yes.
Okay, that's the gender war. That's the concept that was created. I'm a man, I'm in control, I want you, I'm going to hit you over your head, and I'm going to pull you in the cave, and I'm going to abuse you, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's where it started for them.
Mhm.
And where it started for us, which we did long before they did this. And this is something sometimes we as African men have a problem with embracing, is that we began to compete with the woman for the power that she had. The bottom line, even on the plantations, my sister Maali, everybody went to Mami. Everybody went to the black woman. The black woman ran the plantations. Everybody went to her for her counsel. That's just the way it was. That's why it got called Mami. Even when the woman of European descent could not breastfeed her child, the black woman was called wet nurse. The black woman nursed the white babies. She was the one that ran the plantations, whether people realize it or not. She still runs the plantation today. But nobody wants to admit it. And because I believe that sisters are not validating themselves, we see what's happening up here where they're telling women what they should and should not do. And it's an unnecessary competition because no matter how you look at it, ain't nobody coming into the world unless we come through a woman. Mm-hmm. So what kind of game are we playing with ourselves? The very womb from whence we come, we curse when we get older. Any society that curses the womb from whence they came is also cursing their own existence. See, for black women don't play that stuff. Mm. And that is why sometimes we prefer women outside of our own culture. Because you can't play with a lot of black women. and that's just the way it is. And again, my sister Maali, it's hard for brothers to accept that. And I think that once we get the family unit in place, which is really the cornerstone to all societies. But the bottom line is that when they wanted to take over the church, it was always the woman that was the oracle reader. All of the Greeks went to the African woman for the oracle, for the prophecy. And then once they got a sense of what they were doing, they felt that they were now in a position to get rid of the African woman. And so they began to chase her out of the temples. They began to attempt to strip her of her power. And as time went on, they began to put women of Indo-European descent in the place of the black woman that was the original oracle reader. Mm-hmm. So that nobody would ever know that the real oracle readers were black women. And then out of that came the basis for the Catholic Church. And the biblical writings came from the walls of Kush-Kemet. And all of the movement forward came out of the role that women played in telling the Roman emperors and all the rest of them. And even they didn't get it right. And that is why the Roman Empire fell by 426 AD. Because the wealth of their knowledge and wisdom was exploited and abused. So now they didn't know which way to go. And so the civilization fell in 426. Europe went into darkness. Great famines came upon people in Europe. And then in 711, black people ventured into Spain and Portugal and brought civilization back from 711 to 1492. And one of the great discussions that the Indo-European Muslims had with the African Muslims was the fact that the African woman in Europe had power. They owned land, they made money, they were scientists. And the Indo-European Muslim woman had no power. And the power of the black woman over the power of the Indo-European woman made the Indo-European woman question, why am I being treated like this when you're telling me I'm inferior? But look at that black woman. She the one that owned that land over there. Mm-hmm. And so there was a war even between the men, the Muslim men, the original African Muslims against the Indo-European converts. And, there are sayings where the black men told the Indo-European men in Al-Andalusia, you want her? Because they were saying, yeah, you need to put your woman in her place. And then the brother said, yeah, you tell her that. Mm-hmm. See what she do to you. Because that's what made the Moorish Empire flourish in the beginning, was the fact that the role that the women played in the society. Mm. from West Africa, from North Africa. They came with the power. They came with the land. See, even today, we know the importance of a woman because when we get married, what do we call it? We call it matrimony. If it was about a man, we'd call it patrimony.
Mm.
It was the woman that was the center of the celebration of uniting communities in marriage. Even when you look at the word marriage, if it was about a man, it should be called parriage. So you can see the role that women have played, even in the linguistics, even in the etymology of this conversation. The woman has always played an important role. And so has men. So I'm a man. I'm proud to be a man, but I know my place. I know what my contribution is, and I'm comfortable with that. But I'm also comfortable with giving the woman, our sisters, their power too. I give them their props too. And together we can make a civilization. It was that built the pyramids, the temples, and the civilizations of the ancient world.
Mm.
And when we lost ourselves, that's when we got out of control and we lost it.
And that's basically where we are today. I believe that we must come back to that essence of who we truly are. A woman with that feminine energy and the male with that masculine energy, and mostly the men. I think that the women must understand and must come back to understanding and knowing who she is and her essence. But I think that also the men must understand and bring back that respect that is, I guess, must be given to women. If we see nowadays, especially in our community, and speaking for our community, and especially for the young people, as far as respecting the females, stop calling them, the names that we have been hearing in the songs, in the music, and just names that are not uplifting the spirit and the person of that woman. And so, there's a lot of work that we as a community have to do amongst ourselves, women and also men. And so our conversation in this book really had allowed me to see this whole thing that we call experience or story from a different perspective, as far as defining, like you said, responsibility that each one of us has, and to assume it. Because really, that's why we're doing this, so that we can get this information out, so that we can educate. But then what do you do with that education? What do you do with that knowledge? We have to assume it. And once we assume it, that's when we can really begin to start some action as far as, in our community.
Absolutely. The book we're talking about, the Sibyls, the first prophetess of Mami Wata. And the concept, when I read it, the sister that had recommended this book to me, she had studied my work and she'd been to my classes, and we had done mutual webinars together. And she read the book. And then all of a sudden she contacted me and she said, so many of the things that you've been talking about is in this book.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And she said, I don't know if you've ever read it or heard about it, but you definitely have to get it. And that's when I got it. And I've recommended this book to everybody, specifically sisters, specifically young ladies in high school. Even in middle school, you could get a little bit of it. Mm-hmm. But the idea is to read it and don't wait for anyone to validate you. You see, our thing is that the slave mentality, what they do to enslave you, is that they take your history, your language, and your psychological factor, which is your values, your interests, and your principles. And when they do that, they superimpose their history, their language, their values and interests and principles on you. So therefore, any decision you come to will never be in your favor because you're looking at the world through someone else's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you begin to understand who you are, you begin to realize that who has the power? You have the power. You have the power. And the only thing that they have is the power over your mind to believe you ain't got the power. And to believe that they have your power. And that the only way that you can have power if you take it from them and they're telling you they're not going to give it to you. And I tell them all the time, I don't want that power. Look at what you did with that power. I got the power. And when you say that, you know, my sister Maali, you shut them down. Because what else can they say?
Mm-hmm.
Like someone's trying to convince you that they got what you want. And you say, no, you don't got what I want. I got what I want. So at that point, what do I need you for? I got what I need. And as I view our sisters and I view in which I watch the way in which the society works, I come to realize the importance of how they have, through their taking our history, our language, values, interests, and principles and putting thereon, we are at a point where we believe that we have to take something back from them that they took from us, but they never took it from us. What they did is they allowed us to forget that we had it all the time. It's like the Wizard of Oz. Everybody looking for the whiz. Everybody's looking for the Scarecrow wanted the Wiz to give him a brain. The Tin Man wanted a heart, and the Lion wanted courage, and Dorothy just wanted to go home. And at the end of the story, they came to realize that the Wiz told the Scarecrow, "Well, you're the one that devised the plan. You already had a brain." And then all of a sudden, he's coming off with all these mathematical formulas that he already had all the time. The Tin Man, he said, you're the one that was willing to risk everything for everybody else. You already had a heart. And to the Lion, he said, you're the one that protected everybody. You always had courage. And to Dorothy, he said, oh, you know, he floated off into a balloon, and then all of a sudden, here comes Glinda, the good witch, and comes down and tells Dorothy, oh, you know, if you wanted to go home, all you had to do was click your heels 3 times and say, I want to go home. And that's who we are as a people. We're looking for people outside of us to give us the things that we yearn for. Wisdom, a heart, and courage. We want to go home to know who we are. And all the while, Sister Maali, all we got to do is realize we already got a brain. We got a heart. We have courage. And whenever we want to go home, deep down inside, we just say, I want to go home 3 times. And you're home.
And you're home.
It's all an illusion to keep us under their power. And all we got to do is to assume our power. And that will neutralize their power. They will not have power over somebody that knows they've got the power.
Mm-hmm.
Simple, but complex. Because it's a mental thing.
Yes. And you mentioned before the Magi. What about, I know she mentions also the Amazons.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit about them?
That's who they were. They were the Sibyls. But a lot of times people refer to the Amazons as West African women, which they were, basically from Dahomey in West Africa. But they were throughout Africa. Women in the ancient world have always assumed their power. And wherever you see success in the African world, there's a balance of that power. Wherever you don't see it, there's an absence of that balance. And so the Amazons were women, you know, they make ideas that they were very tall and very strong, and they were. But there were some that were not tall. They were just dynamic warriors. There were women in Ethiopia that removed their breast in order to be able to pull back the bow and arrow because their breasts got in the way of them pulling it all the way back. So they removed, those warrior women removed their breast in order to be able to pull that bow back to shoot
Wow.
that's how, now when you talk like that, now you're talking about being free.
Yes.
But that's who the African woman was.
Mm.
She was a warrior who protected her clan, protected her tribe, protected her family at all costs.
Mhm.
In the Black Panther, there's a scene towards the end when they're going to war, and the brother says to the sister, who I believe that they had a good relationship, but he started to turn the other way. And he said, "Would you do this?" You know, she was talking about killing him because he wasn't doing the right thing. He said, "Beloved, would you do this to me?" She said, "For the nation, I would.
Mhm. Yes.
For the nation, I would. Because the needs of the many outweigh the need of the one.
Mm.
And if you're going to act like this, you might as well be dead." That's the Amazon. That's the Kandake queens of Ethiopia. That's the woman on the plantations here in America and in Puerto Rico and in the islands of the Caribbean who speak French and Spanish. Those were the women in Brazil, Mexico, Central and South America. We carry that legacy with us. That is who the woman has always been. And because the society is tumbling out of control, it's evidence that we got to get back to that. We got to get back to the balance. But I encourage our sisters, don't wait to be validated by anybody else. Validate yourself. Your success shows how great you are. Raising a family shows how great you are. Our grandmothers. And you see, for me, my sister Maali, being a teacher in the Board of Education, I came in contact with the community every day, dropping off the children, picking up the children, different things that happen in the school. The school is the one place where you get to meet everybody in the community.
Yes.
And I got a chance to meet grandmothers whose daughters were at work, and so they took care of the children. They'd have like 4 or 5 children with them from 2 of their daughters that worked and had to go to work early. And so grandmother took care of the children, having conversations with them, seeing the dynamic relationship that grandmothers had with their children, mothers had with their children. Black girls still rock. There's no way around it. They run things. But so do men in their own way, because when men do the right thing, women can do their right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, I know that when I speak of the role of women, I speak because of the imbalance in our society. And by the way, I speak to brothers when I'm all by myself like this too. So it's not just I speak to women this way. I speak to brothers too, that we have to understand the role of our women.
Mm-hmm.
Long before we call them all those names that we have in our music, there was a term we used. It was called Hemet Neset Waret. Hemetnessetwaret. And it was a metaphor. And it meant the deep well of water I return to when I'm parched by the desert.
Mm.
And you see, my sister Maali, I don't know if people ever been parched. This past June, I'm coming from a tour of Egypt. I was in Egypt and I did a tour for the month of June. And I got a chance to go to the Sahara. And when you're in parts of Egypt, you're in the desert. And it's hot.
Mm.
And it's the kind of heat that we don't get here. It's that dry heat. It's a heat that, if you're out in the sun long enough, you get parched. It's not thirsty. It's thirsty to the fourth power. When you parched, you really, dust be coming out your mouth. Your mouth get dry like cotton. Okay, and think of that metaphor. Think of the role that women played in men's lives. Because when you parched by the desert, if you've been out in the desert for a couple of days, I got somewhat parched and I was only out there a couple of hours per day.
Mm.
But imagine being parched by the desert. When you parched by the desert, Sister Maali, there's only one thing you're thinking about. There's only one thing that will satisfy you. You ain't thinking about all the money you got. You ain't thinking about all the cars you have. You looking for water. And just think of who our women were to us. Not only were they water, not only were they a well of water, they were a deep well of water. When I was parched by the desert. In other words, Sister Maali, your queen, your wife, your woman, when you've had enough in life that's really parching your brain, that's really hurting your heart, she's the only one that's going to solve your problem. And not only will she solve your problem, but she's a deep well of water. Not just a glass of water, a deep well of water. That's who our women were to us before we lost our way. And I have to say, sisters, you also step back and let it happen.
Yes, absolutely.
So we got to talk on two sides on this.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to understand where the imbalance came. Not only did the imbalance come when men lost their way, but it also came when women lost their way. So now we got to find our way back to ma'at, to balance, truth, and justice. No offense to brothers, like I tell them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a brother, proud to be a brother, proud to be a man. But I understand the power of the woman. And I understand that she is my deep well of water that I go to when I've been scorned in the community, when I've gone through situations. It is the woman that has brought back all the things that I need. And in so doing, I bring to her the things that she needs. It's not about being above or below, in front or behind. It's about being beside. That's why you always see the king and the queen on the throne, side by side.
Mm-hmm.
It's our legacy. We've been around long enough to know that civilizations are built when we're in balance, and they fall when we're not in balance.
Mm-hmm.
And Sibyls are those individuals that were the oracle readers that could foretell the future. Grandma say, you keep acting like that, you're going to see what's going to happen to you. Because she can see the future. She also can tell you and understand what happened before this that would have brought this in. And Abuela say, let me just tell you, I know why you acting like this. But let me tell you what you can do now so you can avoid that.
And this the society today, it's it's kind of like driving us away from that wisdom from our mothers, from our grandmothers, as far as living in different places. Like before, we were closer, because I remember my grandmother. I was raised by my grandmother until I was 8 years old, and she indeed was a Sibyl, no doubt about it. And it came a time where we were separated. So she lived in the Dominican Republic, I lived in the United States, and so the separation from that wisdom became eminent, as far as I wasn't there with her as much now. receiving all that wisdom. And so my mom had to go to work. I was living with my mother and my father, but then they both had to go to work. And then, we know the whole thing. So no matter where we are today.
And once you start walking away from your responsibilities, it becomes easier and easier to walk away.
And it's easier. It's easier to walk away than to be able to do what you have to do or face what you have to face.
Absolutely. It's not easy. But it is when you face it that you become stronger. And it is when you escape it, you become weaker. And then when you get to be an elder, you look back. And then you have regrets.
Mm.
And you know something? For me, my sister Maali, the saddest thing when you get to be an elder, the saddest thing that you can think of or be as an elder is to think you made mistakes in your life. And that had you only made other decisions, you'd be a better person. Because, two of the saddest words in the English language, and I know it's in Spanish too, it's in French, it's in every language, two of the saddest words in the English language, too late.
Mm.
How do you say that in Spanish, Sister Maali?
Demasiado tarde.
Say that again, please.
Demasiado tarde.
Demasiado. Demasiado tarde. Late.
Mm-hmm.
Tarde. Demasiado tarde. That's the saddest language in the Spanish language. Two sad words.
Mm-hmm.
Too late. Time has passed. Now you got to sit in the world you created. You have to lay in the bed that you made.
Mm-hmm.
And there ain't nothing you can do about it. And when you get to be an elder, that's a horrible feeling. It's a horrible feeling. And I pray that as many elders can get up out of that when you're young. And if our young people could understand that the most precious thing they have is time, tiempo, time. Because no matter how great something may be, there will never be another March 20th, 2025. That's why we say pay attention. Because your attention and what you do in your life is a commodity. It's not money. It's more important than money. Mm-hmm. You can have all the money in the world. You could lose it. You can start making more. You can have 3 houses and they all burn down. You can build another one. But you'll never have another day. And once it passes,
that's it.
That's it. Procrastination is the thief of time. Put off tomorrow for what you should do today. Do it. Fulfill it. Live your dreams. What's your gift? What has the Creator given you that's your gift? Develop it. Dr. John Henry Clark, my teacher, used to always say, perfect your craft.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you're doing, do it better the next day. And it's a beautiful thing. Because no matter what we're going through here now, okay, I tell people, particularly young people, this too shall pass.
Yes.
We've been through some bad times. And I'm not even talking about my life. I'm talking about my ancestors' life on the plantations, what they've been through. And I mean, they had the dynamic spirit to be able to live through it for a better day. Wow. I just think about them. When I think I'm having a hard time, my sister Maali, when I dream I'm having a bad time, I wake up and apologize. Because considering what they went through in their life, for them to be able to live another day, to go to the next day, wow. That's just a spirit that I pray for every day.
Yes.
Whatever that spirit was in our ancestors, come on, let me have it. And up until this day, I believe they've given it to me. And I think they've given it to you. And they've given it to Brother Ben. And that's why we three are right here now doing this for those who are yet to come. And I appreciate this opportunity that we can have this type of fellowship, that we can get this conversation going like this. Because our people need to hear it. We're fighting each other through our culture. We're looking at each other from different places, different complexions in our skin, different hair texture, size of our nose, thickness of our lips. And we're all thinking that we're different. No, we're very much the same. Very much the same. And what unites us is Africa. The African spirit unites us. Los Indios unites us. We all have it in us. There were Black people in the Caribbean long before.
Yes.
We don't really know the true history of the Caribbean. Haiti, República Dominicana, Jamaica. Okay? We don't know the real history of us. We see indigenous people now as something else. The first people in this part of the world were Black people.
Yes.
Taino, Arawak, Lucayo, Caribe, Garifuna,
Garifuna, sí.
Honduras. Okay? The original people. That's what they look like. And they were such fierce warriors. They named the whole area. Europeans named the whole area after them. That's where the word Caribbean came from, was from the Caribe.
Del Caribe, sí.
Ka-ra-ba. Those are African words. Ka is spirit, Ra is light and heat energy, Ba is soul. Ka-ra-ba. Caribe. Us. Somos nosotros. But we don't know that. And we fight each other. In the same community, we fight each other. And as long as we're divided, we will be conquered. And that's why the work that you're doing is so important. Retorno, to return back to a time when we knew we were together. I grew up in a project in Manhattan, and my mother would cook fried chicken, and kidney beans and rice. And our Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters would cook arroz con pollo y habichuelas. And our Haitian Haiti community would cook poule and rice, chicken and rice. And on certain Sundays, we'd all go with plates. And I would go and give my mother's dish to our Spanish-speaking community, to our French-speaking community, and they would give us their dish of chicken and rice and beans. We never argued who was better. We only talked about how all of it tasted so good. We're one people. Many different languages, different looks by nature. But I got people in my family look like you. I've got people in my family look like Ben.
Yes.
And we fight each other over superficial situations, and the whole time those who wish to exploit us exploit the divisions amongst us.
Yes.
Retorno. Ubuntu. El retorno. We have to return. Michael Jackson sings, remember the time.
Yes.
Remember the time.
Yes. I don't know if you wanted to add anything else or from the book or any other message that you want to share with us.
Well, my key, my sister Maali, is for us to understand that the stars have aligned. And the fact that we're doing this, and I understand that you've been in great contact with Sister Ara.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Making those connections, and I know my brother, Dr. T.K. Moore.
Yes.
And I've always looked to unite us as a people. That's what my name means. Kaba Hiawatha Kamene means to unite the people. Bring people together who up until then may have not known each other. Unite us as a people and not let the superficialities of various physical or geographical locations separate us. The future demands that we come together. No one of us is going to get out of this on our own.
On our own.
It's only through unity that we're going to make this happen. And I think that this is what we're doing here. We are displaying for our community the examples of unity, where we can sit and have a very positive conversation about where we are as a people and where we need to go as a people in order for our children who are yet to be born. Whether we realize this or not, the work that we're doing right now is for our great-great-grandchildren's great-great-grandchildren. What will they say of us in the year 2125? What will they say we did? Well, they're going to tune into this Ubuntu El Retorno. They're going to say, well, that's what they were doing. They were trying in their time to do the right thing for the people. And they'll carry our legacy. And what we're doing here is we are handing the baton to them through our own experiences and what we've gone through, with all of our strengths and all our areas that are not strong. Because when you can overcome those areas where you're not strong, they become your strengths. Some of your greatest strengths are your greatest weaknesses. Because once you learn how to defeat your weakness, it becomes a strength. Just by being able to make it different, you're making it a strength. And the more you do that, the stronger you become. And the stronger you become, you realize you don't need other people to validate you. You don't need people to necessarily accept you, approve of you, or acknowledge you, because you have self-acknowledgement, self-approval, self-acceptance. You love yourself. You love the kink in your hair, the melanin in your skin, the width of your nose, the shape of your lips. You just love everything about you. So I'd like to give everybody a homework assignment. I'd like you to go where you have a mirror, and I want you to tell the person that you're looking at, I love you, and mean it. Because if you can't do that, there's nothing anyone outside of yourself can do for you. And if you don't love yourself, you can't love someone else, because how can you love someone else if you don't love yourself?
Yes.
All these commercials on TV, trying to make you look like somebody that you weren't born to look like, trying to make you do things you weren't born to do. You got to pay all that money. Okay, when the real answer is very simple. Follow your natural instinct. But you got to love yourself.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, we just, we were talking about the book, the Sibyls. Yes. And so, thank you so much. I mean, I learned a bunch here with this book. It's not even that thick.
Yeah.
So it's a quick book to read, and we will learn so much, especially women, so that we can understand ourselves a little bit better.
Yes.
And
you know something else, Sister Maali? I think that when women read this book, it'll be different from when I read it. Because there are things that you know within you as that feminine energy that I don't know as a male energy. There'll be and I'm sure there were parts of this book that you could identify with almost immediately, and you could bring up examples of what this book was saying, whereas I might not be able to, but it exposed me in my own way to this knowledge. But for a woman to read this book, you'll see yourself in the book. You'll see so many different examples in your life, wherever you are, even if you're a teenager. You'll see things in this book that's you. And it's a powerful experience to be able to understand that. It makes you think differently about yourself and what your potential is. It allows you to open up avenues that have not been opened before. It's like when you have a street that's closed for whatever reason. And then all of a sudden you realize that you don't need to close that street. You open the street up. And that's what this book does. It opens up streets and ideas and concepts that have been closed to you, that you thought were closed. But once you learn, once you know better, you do better.
You know, when I got the book and I saw Mami Wata, I just wanted to share. A year or so ago, I was in Botanica, and as I was standing gathering the things that I was buying, I felt this pull, and that I had to look back, and my eyes were fixed. When I turned around, my eyes were fixed to that it was a picture, and it just pulled me. I didn't even know who was the one in the picture representing. And so when I asked the lady that was there and said, who is that? And she says, oh, that's Mami Wata. I didn't know who Mami Wata was or I didn't know. So I said, okay, it pulled me so much that I said, I want to buy that picture. And so I bought the picture not knowing who she was or anything. But she's a Black woman, and she had a snake around her. And so I honestly, I don't know, I didn't know the story about her or anything. So, but it pulled me so much that I just had to get the picture. So I did get the picture, and what also struck me was the fact that that she had the snake. And so I had a snake ring, and I remember leaving that snake ring at my sister's house, because I drove over to my sister's house and stayed because I didn't want her to drive back home late at night. So I stayed to sleep there. So I took the ring off and I put it on the nightstand. And the following day, I got ready and I left, and I forgot the ring. And so my niece, one of my niece, she calls me up and she says, oh, you forgot your ring? And I said, yes. Oh, yeah, I forgot the ring. And she says, don't worry, I'll hold it for you. And I said, okay. I thought that she was going to put it away somewhere or whatever. No, she put the ring on. She put the ring on. And then she calls me back and she tells me, I don't know what this ring is for. What is this ring? And I said, what do you mean? The ring burned my finger. What do you mean? And she said, yeah. So the ring, and I said, well, I guess it was my energy. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But the ring did put a red mark on her finger, left a red mark, like a red bruise on her finger. And I just started laughing. So it's kind of like once I got the book and I said, oh my goodness, now I can understand some of the things that without me understanding completely, was able to clear some questions that I had that I wasn't able to understand. So without even knowing, I was being pulled by all this information that I've learned through this book. And so I really appreciate you sharing the book and insisting that I get the book and read the book. And so I did, and I really appreciate it. And here we are. So thank you so much, Brother Kaba, for the gift of the Sibyls.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I reciprocated. And, the only thing I ask my sister is that you share it with sisters also, and brothers, but particularly sisters.
Yes. And that's why I said we have to have this conversation, because not only am I going to share it, or I have been sharing it already, But I want the message to go out there as well, so that those that I cannot reach around me can be reached through this video that we are recording, and can get out there to both male and female.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So
Sounds
thank you. Thank you so much, Brother Kaba.
Yes,
Thank
you're
you
very
so much.
welcome. And thank you for all that you do. And to my brother Ben, thank you for all that you do to make this happen. Together, we're going to make this happen. It ain't over till we win. So we just got to keep on keeping on.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
No doubt. Looking forward to the future, family.
Yes, yes. Till next time.
Till next time.
Thank you.